The coffee shop was crowded that Tuesday morning, every table occupied by people hiding behind laptops and phones. Emma wheeled herself through the narrow aisles, her small hands gripping the wheels of her chair with practiced determination. She was 9 years old, and she'd learned long ago that the world wasn't built for someone like her. But her mother always said that didn't mean she should stop trying to find her place in it. Before we go any further, I need to ask you something. Where are you watching this from right now? Have you ever felt invisible in a crowded room, like no one really sees you? Drop a comment below, because Emma's story is about to show us the power of one simple moment of kindness. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the end of this one. Emma's mother was at the counter ordering their usual hot chocolate and blueberry muffin. Emma spotted an empty chair at a corner table where a man sat alone with a beautiful German shepherd lying quietly at his feet. The man wore a military uniform, his posture straight despite the weariness in his eyes. The dog wore a vest that reads "Service Animal" in bold letters. Emma's heart hammered in her chest as she approached. She'd been turned away so many times before. People would put their bags on empty chairs, suddenly remember they were saving seats for friends who never came, or simply pretend they didn't hear her small voice. But something about this man and his gentle dog made her brave. "Excuse me," she said softly, looking up at the Marine. "Can I sit here?" Sergeant Marcus Webb looked down at the little girl in the wheelchair, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. He saw her nervous smile, the hope mixed with fear in her eyes, the way her hands fidgeted in her lap. His German shepherd, Rex, lifted his head and watched the girl with calm, intelligent eyes. Marcus had lost his left leg in Afghanistan 3 years ago. The physical wound had healed, but the invisible one still kept him up at night. Rex wasn't just a service dog. He was the reason Marcus could function in the world again. The dog sensed his panic attacks before they happened, pulled him back from the edge of dark thoughts, gave him a reason to get out of bed when the weight of survival guilt pressed down on his chest. "Of course you can," Marcus said, his voice gentle. He pulled the chair out for her, positioning it so she could wheel right up to the table. "I'm Marcus, and this is Rex." Emma's face lit up like sunrise. "I'm Emma. Is Rex a working dog?" "My mom says I should always ask before I pet working dogs." "Your mom is right," Marcus said, impressed. "But Rex is on break right now. You can pet him if you'd like." Emma reached down carefully, and Rex moved closer, resting his head on her lap. The girl's laughter was pure joy, the kind of sound that made everyone nearby turn and smile without knowing why. "Now, I want you to think about something for a second. When was the last time someone made you feel like you truly mattered? Hold that thought, because what happens next is going to show you why small acts of kindness create ripples we can't even imagine." Emma's mother arrived with their order, her eyes widening when she saw her daughter sitting with the Marine. "I'm so sorry if she's bothering you," she said quickly, that apologetic tone Emma had heard 1,000 times before. "She's not bothering me at all," Marcus said. "In fact, Emma and I were just becoming friends. Would you like to join us?" They sat together for over an hour. Emma told Marcus about her school, about how she loved art class and wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up. She told him about the accident when she was 5, how a drunk driver had changed everything in one terrible moment. She spoke without bitterness, just honest acceptance that made Marcus's chest tighten. In return, Marcus told her about Rex, about how they'd trained together, about how the dog had saved his life more times than he could count. He didn't talk about the war, but Emma seemed to understand the shadows in his eyes. She'd seen similar shadows in her own mirror. "Do people stare at you?" Emma asked suddenly, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Because you're different now?" Marcus looked at his prosthetic leg, then at Emma's wheelchair. "Yes," he said honestly. "They do. Some people look away quickly. Some stare too long. Some treat me like I'm broken." "That's exactly how it feels," Emma said, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Like I'm broken." Marcus leaned forward, his voice firm but kind. "Emma, listen to me. You're not broken. Neither am I. We're just different versions of strong. Your wheelchair doesn't define you any more than my prosthetic defines me. You know what defines us? Our courage. Getting up every day and facing a world that doesn't always understand us. That takes more bravery than most people will ever know." Emma's mother was crying quietly, her hand over her mouth. Other customers had stopped pretending not to listen. The whole coffee shop had gone silent, everyone caught in the gravity of this moment between a wounded warrior and a little girl, who both understood what it meant to be different. Rex suddenly stood up and did something he'd never done before. He moved away from Marcus and sat directly beside Emma's wheelchair, pressing his warm body against her leg. The dog looked up at her with those soulful eyes, and Emma wrapped her arms around his neck, finally letting her own tears fall. "Can I tell you a secret?" Marcus said. "Before I met Rex, I didn't want to leave my house. I was scared of everything. But he showed me that asking for help isn't weakness, it's strength. And accepting kindness from strangers, that's courage. You showed that courage today when you asked if you could sit here." Emma wiped her eyes and smiled. "You showed courage, too. You could have said no." "I could have," Marcus agreed. "But then I would have missed meeting someone pretty amazing." From that day forward, Tuesday mornings became their tradition. Emma and her mother would meet Marcus and Rex at the coffee shop. They'd share stories, laughter, and the kind of friendship that forms when two souls recognize each other's battles. Marcus started volunteering at Emma's school, talking to kids about service dogs and acceptance. Emma started a campaign to make the school more accessible, finding her voice in ways that surprised everyone, including herself. The coffee shop owner eventually put a permanent reserved sign on their corner table. It read, "Reserved for friends who teach us to see beyond ourselves." Years later, when Emma graduated high school as valedictorian, Marcus was in the front row with Rex, now gray around the muzzle but still dignified. In her speech, Emma talked about a Tuesday morning when a Marine and his dog taught her that the bravest thing we can do is take up space in a world that sometimes forgets we're here. You know what changed everything? 2 simple words. Of course. When Emma asked if she could sit down, Marcus didn't hesitate, didn't make excuses, didn't look away. He said yes to a moment that transformed 2 lives. We pass by hundreds of people every day, each carrying their own invisible battles. What if we all started saying yes a little more? What if kindness became our default instead of our exception? If this story touched something in your heart, if it reminded you that we all have the power to change someone's life with a simple act of compassion, then subscribe right now. Hit that button because we need more of these stories in the world. We need reminders that humanity still exists, that heroes don't always wear capes, and sometimes they're just ordinary people who choose to see others. Subscribe, and let's keep this message spreading. I'll see you in the next story.